Yes guys, welcome back to another video. Welcome to the George Benson football channel. In this video, we're going to base off of the news that Graham Potter is set to become the new Chelsea manager. It was reported late last night by Matt Law that Graham Potter is Chelsea's #1 target. I spoke in a video yesterday talking about my plan that I had in my head. I say a plan. It's not a plan whatsoever. It's like my desire to have Zinedine Zidane as the Chelsea manager. But Graham Potter was my second choice. But obviously I made those videos yesterday quite quickly after the announcement of the sacking of Thomas Tuchel. I thought a little bit more about this. And I think Graham Potter, based on Boehly's idea of wanting to have a long-term sustainable manager at the club, I think Graham Potter would be that guy for Chelsea. You've got different systems that Graham Potter could use. We've seen at Brighton, they don't just have one formation. So with that knowledge in mind, Chelsea could go carry something safe along like a 3-4-3, 3-5-2, which is kind of three at the back, which we've seen under Tuchel, but with a different style of play, a different style of pressing. Obviously, with Potter's team at Brighton, they don't always have the ability to play from the back, despite having centre-backs with the capabilities to carry the ball and play with the ball at their feet. But sometimes at Brighton, they do go a little bit more direct. With Chelsea, in order for us to go direct, we would need to entirely change the patterns that we've learned under Tuchel, such as we need to be quicker with our passing. If we're going long, there needs to be more dynamic running from the forward, knowing that a Thiago Silva, a Fofana, Koulibaly, whoever it is in the centre-back position, is going to play that ball a bit longer. So, in this video, we're going to do a tier list. We're going to look through the current Chelsea squad, including Romelu Lukaku. We're going to go through 4 different tiers. 100% safe, as in what this player is used to, expecting from his position in the side, isn't going to change, and they're safe. An improved role. If Thomas Tuchel has upset some of the players with the way we're playing, would Graham Potter's style come in and benefit certain players? Nothing changes, as in, I don't think this player should be worried. I think the minutes they get now and the minutes they would get if and when Graham Potter is announced as Chelsea manager won't change. And at risk. I think it is paramount that the style of play under Thomas Tuchel has or did become stagnant for fans. I think it became stagnant for players. And with any big club like Chelsea, there are always going to be players who are frustrated, and none more so than Romelu Lukaku. Romelu Lukaku, for me, in my opinion, nothing changes as a result of Graham Potter coming in. I think as much as the damage from Lukaku is evidently when history rewrites everything and we see exactly how things pan out, history is only not going to favour Thomas Tuchel in this situation. There are other Chelsea players who may well have been frustrated by the actions of Romelu Lukaku, and therefore the fallout and the way that that affected Tuchel, maybe in the way that he managed individuals. Maybe Chelsea players kind of felt as though they might have had to pick a side. And I think overall, the Lukaku scenario inevitably was the beginning of the spiral of said downfall of Thomas Tuchel. So in my opinion, I think Lukaku's already done enough damage for me to say that that loan move back to Italy was a loan move as a stopgap to try and offload him permanently in the future. I don't think Lukaku has a future in this Chelsea team. I think a lot of the players in the current squad who will remain under Potter, or if it isn't Potter, somebody else. Lukaku did the damage. A lot of players would have probably been against him, even if it wasn't publicly shown in the dressing room. Nothing changes. I don't think Lukaku's got a Chelsea future, but a player that will have a future at Chelsea Football Club is Armando Broja. And I think under Tuchel, even in the 7 matches we've seen this season, there was enough that I saw from Broja's energy, movement, something we didn't see so much from Kai Havertz, to suggest that if Graham Potter comes in, we could see Graham Potter go with 2 forwards. And considering Broja's minutes haven't been plentiful in the first 7 games under Tuchel, I think it would be safe to say that Broja's role at the club with Aubameyang coming in is not 100% safe. You're a guaranteed starter for Chelsea #9, mate, with Havertz there as well. But I do think he would get more minutes under the manager, Graham Potter. Moving into Ben Shillwell. This one is at risk, quite obviously, because Marc Cucurella has come in. If Chelsea go under Potter with a back 4, which I think would probably be the progressive plan for Graham Potter at Chelsea, then he's already played with Marc Cucurella at Brighton. He was one of Brighton's best players. I think he won the Player of the Year too. Evidently, if you go with a back four, there isn't place in the team for both Chilwell and Cucurella. Ben Chilwell, in my head, is Chelsea's number one in that position. But under Graham Potter, he would obviously be at risk because Marc Cucurella's played with him before. He knows how to use Cucurella effectively in a back four, and Chilwell is a better wing back. So if we were to go with a back four, Cucurella might be the first choice. So it puts Chilwell at risk. Let me know your thoughts on this in the comments below. Next player in the squad is Kane Chukwuemeka. Nothing changes for Kane because at this point in time, he's not gone on the field yet. He's been bought in for the future. And I think that the plan that Boehly has with the signings of Cassidy, Chukwuemeka, Slanina, we've not included Cassidy and Slanina in this one because they're not currently in the squad. Nothing really changes. Chukwuemeka knows he's got to be patient. There is a bit of a midfield issue with Kante, Jorginho contracts. And so Kovacic constantly being injured, Gallagher, not the best start. So maybe Chukwuemeka might have an improved role in terms of like escalating that chance that he will get in the first team. But I really think nothing changes. Moving into Aspi. I think Aspi would be at risk, again, simply because at the moment, there will be minutes that will be given to him in right centre-back playing in a back three. Depending on what Graham Potter is to do, we would probably see Aspi's minutes decline a bit more because Thomas Tuchel was using him a lot because Tuchel praised Azpilicueta as a captain, as a man, as Tuchel was a lover of Chelsea Football Club and he understands that Aspi is one of the strongest representatives at the club. So with a new manager, with an emphasis from Boehly on wanting to keep going with youth players, Aspi signed a 2-year deal. I think his minutes would be at risk. Christian Pulisic. Now with a system that Graham Potter likes to play, there is a lot of width in the Brighton team. When Brighton are not with the ball, quite often the whole team shifts over to the side where the ball is to create advantages in the middle with numbers. So with that width that Graham Potter likes to play with, you've got to say that there would be an improved role or an improved potential of minutes for Christian Pulisic because at the moment, he's not getting many under Thomas Tuchel. Moving into Conor Gallagher, I'd say nothing really changes for Gallagher. At the moment, it's been a bit of a up and down for Gallagher personally in the sense of he's been getting minutes, but with the minutes, he might not have done what he would have wanted to do. And I do think if Potter comes in again, this is all if at the moment, there's nothing confirmed at the time of me recording this, which is like 3:30 in the morning UK time, and I'm trying to get this one out for you as early as I possibly can with the news that Potter is set to sign. Graham Potter teams always press. What is Conor Gallagher good at? Pressing. And I think Conor Gallagher would probably get an improved role, but based on the fact he's already been playing, I don't think much changes, but the role would change. But he goes into tier number 3. Edouard Mendy, I also put him in the nothing changes category because I think the Kepper inclusion against Dynamo Zagreb will kind of be forgotten because at one point it was the biggest news of the week. Now Tuchel's been sacked. I don't think it is. And as much as you could say that Kepper's better with the ball at his feet, and if we're trying to get the ball out from the back quickly under Graham Potter, maybe Kepper's favourable, I still think Mendy will be Chelsea's number one. And I think if Potter was to come in, I think making that executive call to drop Mendy and make Kepper the number one again wouldn't be the priority, or maybe even the smartest early move. So for Mendy, nothing changes. We move into Jorginho. Now with Jorginho, I think Jorginho is always going to be at risk. I think Jorginho, whether it was Tuchel who stays, or Potter, Pochettino, whoever it is who comes in, but we're basing this video off of Graham Potter. Jorginho for me is at risk at Chelsea in general. He's at risk because of his contract. He's at risk now because this manager is being bought in. Tuchel's been sacked because Chelsea want a long-term plan. Jorginho is not part of a long-term plan at Chelsea Football Club. There were rumours he was offered a contract. He wanted to extend the contract, but there was a delay for whatever reason. There's always a delay with Jorginho. There's a delay for him running around. Great player on his day, but he'd be at risk if Potter was to take over. Kai Havertz is the next one. He goes into tier number 2. For me, I think there would be an improved role for Kai Havertz. I think there is certainly a Chelsea team that we could see a 4-2-3-1 under Graham Potter. I think there's more chance of a 4-2-3-1 under a Pochettino. But I think at the moment, one of Tuchel's biggest issues was that he didn't know how to utilise Kai Havertz to the best of his ability. And because of the issues with Werner leaving, Lukaku leaving, maybe he didn't trust Broja, Kai Havertz was still going through the middle and not necessarily delivering unless it is in the last 15 minutes with Ben Chilwell on the field against West Ham. So I think whatever manager comes in, specifically here Graham Potter, will find an improved role for Kai Havertz, whether that is in his preferred number 10 role with a more advanced striker or as a second striker. If we are to go with the earlier Brighton days under Potter where from Chris Hughton to him he went with a 4-4-2 with two strikers, I think it would be likely that we could see Havertz as a second striker with either Aubameyang or Broja as the more advanced. Kai Havertz gets an improved role. Moving in to Kalidou Koulibaly. I think Koulibaly would be one of the safe ones under Graham Potter. I know this is kind of weird because I was actually saying that Koulibaly might have his position at risk because I wasn't fully convinced by his start at Chelsea. But we do know if Potter goes with two centre-backs, Koulibaly fits in perfectly in a two centre-back system. Or if he remains with three at the back, Koulibaly's the first choice left centre-back. So I think Koulibaly's position is safe regardless of what formation or strategy Graham Potter would wish to implement. Moving into Kepper. As much as I put Mendy in tier number 3, I do think that idea of Kepper being better with his feet, Kepper being more of a sweeper-esque kind of keeper, maybe sometimes he comes out a bit too soon. You would say that Kepper would get an improved role based on what he's had under Tuchel. Because even when Mendy would make mistakes, Kepper wouldn't really ever get given the chance until there was multiple mistakes like we just saw against Dynamo Zagreb. So I think with a new manager coming in, it would be his job to give a fair trial, I guess you could say, to both Mendy and Kepper. So you could say Kepper will get an improved role. Marc Cucurella. This is the one that you guys might disagree with because there is nothing to say that if Graham Potter was to come in, he wouldn't also be of the ideology and mindset that Shillwell, I think, is a better left-sided player than Cucurella. As good as Cucurella is, it isn't Cucurella versus Shillwell. They're both at the club and we're blessed to have two great players in that position. But I think Cucurella would be safe, especially in the early phases of Graham Potter's job, because his job is to come in, revolutionise the style of play, make us play attractive football and win us football matches. And if he can use the knowledge he knows with a certain player, he can kind of use Cucurella as his in for the rest of the players to help understand his system. Cucurella wouldn't need any time to understand what he's being told to do. So in the meantime, Cucurella's getting minutes in the early stages of this season, mainly because Chilwell was being eased back in. But if Graham Potter was to come in, having worked with him before, having been so successful under Graham Potter before, I think Cucurella would be safe. We move into Mason Mount. I think Mount would also get an improved role based on the understanding that he's disappeared in the early stages of this season. So as much as he's still been getting minutes and then has been dropped as well, I think that we would see the best out of Mason Mount again with a different system. And with Graham Potter, there is a very strong chance that we do see two advanced playmaking eights in this Chelsea team. So I think that would allow us to play Mount in his best correct position and not necessarily so much out wide. So I think his role would be improved. You could argue 100% safe because he still plays most games, but it's an improved role nonetheless. We move into Mateo Kovacic. Whether it is one holding DM or two in the middle, I think Kovacic is, that's a bit of a tongue twister, 100% safe in this Chelsea team. I think he's the most consistent. Yes, injuries mean that, ironically, he might not be that consistent. But in terms of performance when he's fit, I think Kovacic will mould into any system that Graham Potter is to implement. N'Golo Kante, at risk again, simply because if we go with one DM and then more of an advanced midfielder further up from that one DM, I think it could easily more be Gallagher than Kante that Graham Potter would choose. I think any manager who comes into Chelsea would be incredibly bold to drop a player of the influence and quality of N'Golo Kante on his day. So I don't think you can say nothing would change because it depends entirely on the system, which would then depend on what N'Golo Kante you get and whether he is better utilised as like an energy induction kind of player where we bring him in to change games if we need to adapt things in the match. I think he would be at risk because I think Kovacic is a bit more versatile. So that's why I put him in the safe category. Ruben Loftus-Cheek would also be at risk because Ruben is one of those players that we didn't really know last season how heavy or strong of a role he was going to have. Early this season, you could argue that maybe the minutes he's got have been because of injuries and players returning. So did Tuchel really think Ruben was the guy to carry the Chelsea midfield? I'm not sure. Does his profile suggest that Ruben will work hard enough in a Graham Potter system where he demands so much from the whole team? I'm not sure. So I put Ruben in the at-risk category. Thiago Silva. This, for me, is the most interesting, debatable player for the safe, unsafe if Graham Potter was to take over at Chelsea. If we go with a 4 at the back system, meaning there's 2 centre-backs, I think Koulibaly and Fofana would be the preference. With Thiago Silva about to turn 38 years old, playing in a back 3 gives him protection. It gives him the ability to marshal from the middle, knowing that there is cover with speed on both the left and the right. If it was to be a back 4, Thiago Silva being that ever-present that he was until the Dynamo Zagreb game, that is 100% at risk if Graham Potter was to come in, because with a back 2, I wouldn't be so sure if Thiago Silva would be one of those first choices. Please let me know if there's any of these you disagree with based on your knowledge of Graham Potter and how you think he'd set Chelsea up in the comments below. The next player is Trevor Chalobah. I think nothing would change for Trevor because I think he understands the role he has in this team. There were rumours he was going to go to Inter Milan in the summer. Tuchel wanted to keep him because we left the Fofana business until very late. I've just realised, have I even gone through Wesley Fofana in this video? I didn't even write him down at the moment. I've got to go and think about this one. So Chalobah, nothing changes. Don't think he'd be first choice in a back 2 or a back 3. Good player though, but I think he just have to accept that it will probably be a bit part role for the majority of the season. Reece James, 100% safe. If there is any manager, be it Graham Potter, Pochettino, Brendan bloody Rodgers, Zinedine Zidane, whoever it may be, if Reece James is not the first name on the team sheet, they're not the right manager for the job. Give me a buzz, mate. Call me on the cell phone, the flipping telephone. I've only got my wallet here because my phone's on charge, but give me a ring, mate. I'll put Reece straight back in and everyone will be happy. Reece is 100% safe. Absolutely no questions asked. Raheem Sterling, at risk? He would have to be at risk because although Sterling can play out wide and Graham Potter does like to use wide areas, Thomas Tuchel was one of the main reasons that Raheem Sterling signed for Chelsea, so that we are led to believe. As much as he wanted a new challenge, Chelsea offered him good money, Sterling was given assurances from Thomas Tuchel that he would be one of the main men. After 7 matches of his Chelsea career, that man who gave him those assurances is no longer at the club. So he would be at risk because I think Graham Potter would come in, and as much as a signing of Sterling's credentials and ilk would probably be one of the little tenets that would be given to him by Boehly and the ownership, being like, we just bought this guy, he's a big name, he's a big face for the club, he's got to be a part of anything you do. I think he would be, but I also think that Graham Potter is a manager who already has his philosophy. So there are so many players who would be at risk, and we don't necessarily know exactly what we'd see from this Chelsea team because we don't really know what we've been seeing from Tuchel's team. So how do we know how the new manager's going to come in and quickly change and adapt things? We don't. The final player is Wesley Fofana, 100% safe. Chelsea has spent so much money on this guy, whether it's a back 3, he's right centre-back. If it's a back 2, then he fits in perfectly again, alongside either Koulibaly or Silva, whoever we decide to go for. And I think that when we look at what Graham Potter will be asked to do, Todd Boehly wants someone who is going to be here for many years. This is what the players will understand when the new manager comes in. Graham Potter, on reflection, I wanted Zidane. I said Zidane, and I still kind of do want Zidane. But Graham Potter would be a phenomenal appointment in terms of this long-term vision that Todd Boehly has for Chelsea. So, let me know what you think of this tier list on the screen now. Do you agree with my safety or not so safe ratings in this video? Subscribe to GBFC if you do like this kind of concept content. Come on, you Blues.